I've been testing this Velztorm custom PC out for the last few days, and I mean, it's handled everything that I've been able to throw at it. This is definitely turning out to be the most powerful pre-built PC I've ever been able to test here on the channel. Hey, what's going on everybody? It's ETA Prime back here again. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Velztorm Praetix custom-built gaming PC. On paper, this thing is an absolute beast. In fact, it's one of the most powerful PCs that they build over at Velztorm. A 24-core, 6GHz CPU paired up with an RTX 4090, all inside of this Y60 case. And this is actually a case that I've been wanting to get my hands on. I think it's a really good looking setup here. A 360mm AIO, and this unit here has the PNY GeForce RTX 4090, but keep in mind, this may differ depending on when you pick one up. It's really about availability of the GPUs that they can get their hands on, but overall, I think this looks absolutely amazing. Taking a look around back, cable management is done up really nice. And this is actually the second custom-built PC that I'm taking a look at from Velztorm on the channel, and yeah, I mean, it is the most powerful that we've seen so far. Definitely coming in really hot with that 6GHz 24-core CPU and that RTX 4090. Of course, it wouldn't be a modern-day gaming PC without some RGB, and all of this is controllable within Windows from the iCUE software. And when it comes to the overall specs, some of these parts may differ depending on availability, but what we've got here is the Intel Core i9-14900K, 24 cores up to 6GHz. Motherboard is covered by an Asus Prime Z790P Wi-Fi. We've got that PNY GeForce RTX 4090 with 24GB of VRAM, 32GB of DDR5 at 5200MHz, obviously running in dual channel, 2TB M.2 NVMe SSD, plus a 2TB 3.5-inch hard drive. And all of this is inside of the Height Y60 case. Now this one is in white. I believe they do have a black option also. To cool that CPU, they've added the Corsair H150 Elite XT 360mm AIO. Case fans are the Corsair SP120 RGB fans and AF120 RGB fans for the radiator. 1000 watt ATX 3.0 fully modular gold power supply, and this is running Windows 11 Home. So obviously, with specs like this on paper, we're going to be able to run anything. We've got that 14900K, 32 gigs of DDR5, and of course, the big claim to fame here, that Nvidia GeForce RTX 4090 with 24 gigs of VRAM. All of the RGB and cooling system can be controlled from the iCUE software right here. From cooling, everything's going to be set to balance. We could go to extreme with it, might get a bit louder, but you know, this case is pretty big. We've got a lot of airflow in here. Haven't noticed it ramping up really high or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, from our cooling presets, we've got a quiet, balanced, extreme, 0 RPM, variable speed. We're going to leave it right here at balanced. And the first thing I wanted to take a look at were some benchmarks. Then we'll get right into some 4K gaming. Starting out with the CPU side of things, Geekbench 6, single core breaking 3078. Multi-score looking absolutely ridiculous here with the 22,356. I mean, on paper so far with these synthetics, this CPU is going to handle anything. Total multi-core score, 37,878. Beating everything else in this chart here, and I've been using R23 for a while now. I know there's a newer version, but this just kind of gives me an idea of the performance jump from those older chips, and it's pretty massive here. Moving over to some GPU benchmarks, and we've got the newest benchmark from 3D Mark up front, Steel Nomad, coming in with a 9093, highest score that I've been able to run so far on any system that I've tested on the channel with Steel Nomad. The next one we have here is Firestrike, total score 48,654. And finally, Time Spy with a 32,675. Now, going into this, I knew we were going to see some really great synthetic benchmark scores here because we've got some pretty high-end hardware. And I mean, overall, I'm pretty impressed so far, but this was really built for gaming, so we're going to go ahead and jump into it. I do want to mention here that with all of the games I'm going to be testing, except for one, we're not using any DLSS, and with that one, it's going to be the very last one. Basically, it sets it up in auto mode with the preset, so I just left it on. We actually don't need it to get over that 60 mark, but of course, you could get much higher frame rates in all of these games when you pair up Nvidia's technologies with this 4000 series GPU, like FrameGen and DLSS. But I wanted to keep it at that true 4K resolution, maxed out settings to see what we could do. Now the next one we have on the list is Horizon Forbidden West. This one has given me issues on all systems that I run it on. And I've played through this game on PlayStation and PC. My playthrough on PC was at 1440p with some mixed settings, but this right now is totally maxed out, so we're at very high, no DLSS, no frame generation, 4K, and I didn't realize that this game looks so good. And I know it's kind of hard going from a game capture and then uploading to YouTube. There is some compression there, but on my 4K display at this kind of resolution and settings, it looks incredible. And again, I have played through this on PlayStation, and I've also played through it on PC at 1440p. The rig that I was running it on just didn't have the horsepower to max it out at 4K, but yeah, I mean, this looks so good. Checking out Red Dead Redemption 2 at 4K maxed out. So with this game, I've never been a big fan of the way their settings are, but we've got a slider, and I've taken that slider all the way over to the right-hand side at 4K with no resolution scaling. And at the end of this benchmark, we had an average of 129 FPS. It's been a while since I've tested out Starfield on any system, and it really comes down to kind of playing through everything that I wanted to play through in the game itself. But then again, you know, when this was initially launched, did have a lot of performance issues. Looks like a lot of that is cleared up now with these new updates, and we're at 4K Ultra settings, 100% resolution scale, getting an average of around 76 FPS in cities. Out in the open, about 94 FPS. I mean, there is a pretty big jump there. If you've played this game, you know, going into a city like Jemison really does put a hurt on your hardware. But with this system here, yeah, I mean, we're over 60 at 4K. And the final game I wanted to test here was Cyberpunk 2077. We're at 4K, ray tracing set to ultra, and as we know with those presets, it does take DLSS to auto. To tell you the truth, I don't think DLSS is going any lower than quality right here. This looks super good. Now, I'm not a huge fan of ray tracing. I mean, on a good monitor with a good system, yeah, if you can run these games with ray tracing on, you can definitely get that awesome look. Lots of sparkles, reflections look absolutely amazing. But personally, I would just set this to ultra with no DLSS. Either way, I kind of wanted to show it off here with ray tracing set to ultra, and we're getting a frame rate over 90 FPS. The last thing I wanted to talk about here were CPU and GPU temps, plus total system power draw from the wall. That's something I always like to take a look at, and we usually take a look at low-powered systems. With the RTX 4090 in this thing and that 14900K, it's definitely not a low-power draw system. But while gaming, our average CPU temp was only 61 degrees Celsius, and this thing was pulling around 140 watts while gaming at 4K. Average GPU temps were just a bit higher, sitting at 64 degrees Celsius, so we're nowhere near thermal throttle with this thing. But the last thing I monitored here was just total system power draw. An average 4K gaming power draw from the wall using a kilowatt meter is 473 watts. Now I will tell you, I saw the GPU jump close to 400 watts in some cases at 4K. And I know for a fact if we pegged out that CPU and GPU at the same time, we could be well over that 473 watts from the wall. But while gaming, that's about what we're going to do here. And like I mentioned, it's not a low power consumption unit at all, but we are getting some of the best performance that you can out of a PC right now. Overall, love the selection of parts they used here. Build quality is awesome, and performance is top notch given that we're working with some of the highest end parts on the market right now at the time of making this video. That's going to wrap it up for this one. Really appreciate you watching. If you're interested in learning a little more, I will leave some links in the description. And one thing I actually noticed was they also offer an LCD variant of this. The Y60 does have a spot for that LCD panel up front. And you can customize this however you'd like through software. So you can put videos on it, you can put images on it. It's really up to you. I think it's a pretty cool little setup, but remember you can always add an LCD later on down the road to the non-LCD variant if you wanted to save some money up front. I've also got a code for $100 off over at Newegg. Use code ETAPrime2 at checkout and you can get $100 off. If there's anything else you want to see running on this machine, just let me know in the comments below. But that's it for this one. Like always, thanks for watching.